Our movies start with a historian telling Princess Eva that way back in the day, magic was everywhere. There was this kind and wise king named Sauron who had a magical crown. This crown could grant any wish and even cure any illness. People from all over would come to the king to get healed or have their wishes granted. One day, the king uses his crown's magic to heal a woman's child. After she leaves, the king's magical advisor, Jafar, asks for the crown and the throne. When the king sees his betrayal, he orders his soldiers to arrest him. But Jafar, the advisor, uses his dark magic to attack King Sauron. The king fights back, and since Jafar's magic isn't strong enough to kill him or just take the crown, he curses the king and his kingdom to be destroyed. Princess Eva hears this story from the historian and says they're just fairy tales. But the historian insists they're real, saying that King Sauron's kingdom is mentioned in historical records. He also tells her that if they can find the magical crown, it could cure her father, King William's incurable sickness. The king's sneaky minister, Hojo, overhears their conversation. Meanwhile, in a village in the same kingdom, we meet a blind blacksmith named Martin who's making weapons for King William's army. His friend asks him if the sick king is getting ready for a war, but Martin's mom shows up and says, no, the king is old. She says that Hojo, the sneaky minister, is up to something so he can become king himself and marry the king's daughter, Eva. The next scene shows Princess Eva and Minister Hojo going to see her sick dad, William. Eva tells her dad she heard that King Sauron's magical crown could cure his sickness. The king tells her those are just fairy tales and she shouldn't get mixed up in all that. He tells her he doesn't have much time left and she should marry a worthy prince soon so the kingdom has an heir to take over after he's gone. Eva says she's waiting to find the right prince. After Eva and Hojo leave her dad's room, the evil Hojo tells her that King Sauron and his magical crown are real. He says her dad just lied because he didn't want her to risk her life looking for it. Eva asks where King Sauron's kingdom is. Hojo tells her that many of her ancestors died trying to find the crown, so the map to get there is hidden in her father's scepter. He says if she had a brother, he would have definitely gone to find the crown to cure their father. Eva doesn't realize Hojo is just being clever, and she goes back to her room, determined to find the crown. That night, when she tries to go to her dad's room, the guards at the door tell her that Minister Hojo gave an order that no one can go into the king's room while he's resting. To get rid of the soldiers, Eva comes up with a plan. She goes into the room across the hall and scatters the beads from her necklace on the floor, then knocks over the soldier's armor. The guards hear the noise and go check it out, but they slip on the beads and fall down. Eva uses this chance to sneak into her dad's room. Hojo is secretly watching all this happen because it's all part of his plan. He wants the princess to go look for the crown and never come back so he can become the new king. Eva gets the map to Sauron's kingdom from her dad's scepter. She goes back to her room and looks at the map, which shows that Sauron's kingdom is in the mountains with crooked peaks. That same night, she puts on a cloak, grabs her old rusty sword, and sneaks out of the castle. She hops on a horse and starts riding away. Because her face is covered, the soldiers don't recognize her and think she's a thief, so they try to catch her. But Eva manages to knock them off their horses and get away. Hojo knows everything that's going on, so according to his plan, he tells the king that the princess has run away. The king asks who told the princess about the map, and the evil Hojo falsely blames a servant. He has the servant arrested and thrown in jail. The king then tells Hojo to find his daughter as soon as possible. The cunning Hojo was waiting for this chance, so he tells the king that he'll need all the king's authority to find her quickly, so people will listen to him. Upset about his sickness and his missing daughter, the king has no choice but to give Hojo all his authority until the princess comes back. Hojo is thrilled because everything is going exactly as he planned. He goes to his room and uses a magic mirror to talk to his cousin. He tells her that the king gave him all his authority and now he's going to attack and take over all the neighboring kingdoms to become a powerful emperor. But he says the princess could still be a problem, so if she comes to her while looking for the crown, his cousin shouldn't let her live. Next, we see Martin, the blind blacksmith, in the forest using his stick to feel his way around. He's dragging a Christmas tree branch back to his village. When he gets home, his mom asks him why he's doing risky things like this without his sight. Martin tells her that Christmas is coming and he wanted to bring it home himself. He says even though he can't see, he can smell, hear, and feel his way around just fine. A little later, the princess, who ran away from the castle, shows up in the village in the cold, snowy weather. She asks some villagers where she can find a blacksmith to sharpen her old sword, and they send her to Martin. Martin is getting his house ready for Christmas when the princess comes to him with her horse. He hears her and asks how he can help. Eva says she needs to get her rusty sword sharpened sharpened and her horse's hooves shod. Martin takes her sword and tells her to wait with his mom in his house while he works. Eva agrees. Martin's mom recognizes the princess and gets all flustered, putting out all the food she has for their guest. Meanwhile, Martin sharpens Eva's sword and then comes back home to eat some of the sweets on the table. His mom scolds him, saying the sweets are for the princess, their guest. Martin tells Eva that her horse is shod and her sword is sharpened. Martin's mom asks Eva why she's traveling alone. Eva tells her she's going to the mountains with crooked peaks. Martin's mom tells her that the area is really dangerous, and even animals are scared to go there, so she shouldn't go by herself. Martin asks her why she wants to go there. Eva says she needs to find King Sauron's magical crown to cure her father's sickness. Martin's mom says, "Sweetie, listen, no one who's ever gone to Sauron's palace has ever come back, so please don't go." But Eva is determined, so Martin's mom tells her to stay the night and leave in the morning. Eva agrees. Martin's mom gives Eva a bed to sleep in, then she goes to her son, and Martin tells her he's going with the princess. His mom gets scared and says, "Are you crazy? I can't let you be in danger." Martin says it wouldn't be right to let the princess go alone. Seeing that he's being stubborn, his mom says they'll talk about it in the morning. She puts some herbs in his tea and gives it to him. A little while later, Martin falls asleep right where he's sitting. In the morning, he wakes up and asks his mom where the princess is. His mom says she left early in the morning. Martin asks her why she didn't tell him, and his mom makes excuses. She didn't want her son to be in danger, so she put a sleeping herb in his tea to stop him from going with the princess. Martin suspects something's up. He smells a scent like the one the princess was wearing and follows it. He finds the princess's handkerchief on the ground. His mom comes over and asks him why he's sitting on the ground holding the princess's handkerchief and tells him to get to work. Martin starts chopping wood. While he's talking to his friend, the princess's horse shows up. Martin hears the horse and goes to touch it, and he realizes it's the princess's horse. He rushes inside his house and gets ready. His mom asks him where he's suddenly going. Martin tells her that Eva's horse came back alone, and the princess is probably in danger, so he has to go find her. His mom tries to stop him again, but he won't listen. She gives him a bag of food and an axe for protection. Martin takes them, gets on the horse, and tells it to take him to the place where it left the princess. The horse takes him through the snowy paths to the edge of the forest, where it stops and won't go any further. Martin knows it's too scared to go on, just like his mom told him. So he leaves the horse there, grabs his bag, and uses his axe to feel his way forward. He gets to a mountain path with a gate in the middle. He goes through the gate and finds a lush green forest on the other side. The other side of the gate is shaped like a face, and a little goblin dwarf is standing inside its ear. The goblin yells at Martin, saying he's the guard, and Martin can't go on without giving him something. Martin, being blind, doesn't know if there's really a guard there. He tells the goblin he doesn't have any money and that he's just a blacksmith looking for the princess. The goblin is a sneaky one who would hide inside the statue and scare people to get what he wanted. He asks Martin what's in his bag. Martin says his mom packed him some sweet buns for his trip. The greedy goblin's mouth starts watering, and he asks for a bun. Martin happily gives him one. The goblin loves the buns so much that he sneaks into the bag to steal the rest, but Martin hears him and catches him. He tells the goblin he's too small to be stealing his buns. The goblin says he's always hungry, and it's hard to find good food in the forest. He says that in exchange for the bun, he'll give Martin some information to help him find the princess. Martin asks what kind of information. The goblin tells him there's a weird-looking old lady by the river, and she might know something about the princess, but he warns him to be careful and suggests he steal her cat. Martin thanks the goblin, gives him another bun, and goes on his way. He uses his axe to feel his way forward and realizes there's a small river up ahead. He throws a few rocks in to see how deep it is, and when he thinks it's not too deep, he takes off his clothes and crosses it. The goblin is still secretly following him because he wants more buns. As soon as Martin crosses the river, a weird-looking old woman on a mountain path sees him and asks if he's looking for someone. Martin says yes, a princess, and asks if she's seen her. The evil witch says her memory is bad and she can't remember, but she writes everything down in her diary. She tells him that if he comes to her house, she can check her diary and tell him if she saw the princess. Martin agrees. The witch takes him to her house, but Martin is a little hesitant. She says some sweet things to him and gets him to go inside her hut and sit on a stool. Martin asks her if she saw the princess. The witch doesn't answer because she plans on cooking and eating him. She gives him some milk with a sleeping potion in it to drink. Martin smells the milk and gets suspicious. He remembers the goblin's warning to be careful of the old woman. He doesn't drink the milk, so the witch says, "Don't be scared, I'm not going to knock you out and cook you." Martin knows she's not going to give up, so he tells her someone is calling her from outside the door. The witch goes outside and looks around. While she's gone, on, Martin switches his cup with hers. The witch comes back in and says there's no one outside. She tells him to drink the milk because it'll help him with his tiredness. Martin drinks the swapped milk, and the witch drinks hers. After drinking it, Martin pretends to pass out on the table. The witch is super happy and says, "Today I'm going to get to eat this blind guy's meat because the princess didn't fall for my tricks." The witch doesn't realize she drank the drugged milk herself, so she passes out a few minutes later. Martin, who was just pretending, gets up. A few hours later, the witch wakes up to find herself hanging upside down from a rope over a pot of boiling water. Martin tells her, "Your plan backfired, so tell me where the princess is, or I'll boil you and make soup out of you." Scared, the witch tells him that the princess came here. She says her magic didn't work on the princess because of her sword. She says the princess went to King Sauron's palace from there. She warns him that Sauron is cursed, and anyone who sees him turns to stone right away. She says no one has ever come back from there. Martin asks how to get to King Sauron's palace. The witch tells him he has to cross the mountains and go through the narrow paths to the end of the valley, and that's where he'll find the palace. After getting the information, Martin grabs his bag and axe and starts to leave. The witch asks him to untie her, but he doesn't. He takes her cat and leaves. The goblin is still secretly following Martin. After Martin leaves, the witch swings on the rope, grabs an axe, and cuts herself loose. She goes to her magic mirror and talks to her cousin, Hojo. She tells him that maybe King Sauron's curse can be broken. Hojo says the princess already turned to stone in his palace, and no one knows that he's Jafar, the advisor who cursed Sauron, and he's been alive all these years as Hojo. So he asks who could break the curse. The witch says his curse is that anyone who sees Sauron turns to stone, but she says if someone spends a day with him without turning to stone, the curse could be broken. Jafar, or Hojo, asks who could do that. The witch says there's a blind blacksmith named Martin, so the curse won't affect him. Jafar is shocked and says he'll make sure Sauron's story ends forever. After that, Jafar disappears from the palace in a puff of smoke. The next scene shows Martin walking through the narrow mountains. The path gets steeper, so he uses his axe to feel his way and climb up. The higher he goes, the narrower and more treacherous the path gets. But Martin doesn't give up. Suddenly, the goblin appears on a rock and tells him that he's stuck in some narrow mountains and won't be able to get out easily. Martin ignores him and keeps climbing. Jafar appears on the rock behind the goblin and first uses his dark magic to turn the goblin into a stone statue and makes him fall down. Then he uses his dark powers to push Martin off the mountain. But before Martin can get hurt, Jafar stops him. Martin is blind, so he has no idea what's happening. Jafar plays a trick and talks to him in the goblin's voice, saying, "You were about to fall, but I saved you with my magic." Martin says thank you. Jafar, still using the goblin's voice, tells him again that as long as King Sauron is alive, the curse will remain. He says the princess, who has turned to stone, will never be human again unless the curse is broken. He tells him he has to kill King Sauron. Jafar disappears. Martin doesn't know it wasn't the goblin, so he listens to his advice and keeps climbing the mountain. He finally gets to Sauron's ruined palace. He uses his axe to feel his way forward and goes into the palace. Inside, there are statues of everyone who turned to stone because of the curse. Martin smells each statue and finds one that smells like the princess's handkerchief, and he knows it's her. The princess's sword is also lying next to the statue. Martin calls out for Sauron. Sauron is sitting on his throne, looking sad, and asks who he is and what he's doing there. He asks if Martin knows that anyone who sees him turns to stone because of the curse. Martin hears Sauron's voice, grabs his axe, and goes up to him. Sauron is surprised and asks why he hasn't turned to stone yet. Martin tells him that it's because he can't see, so the curse didn't affect him. Sauron tells him he's been living with this curse for 1,000 years. Martin asks what happened. Sauron says his magical advisor, Jafar, tried to take his crown and throne. When Jafar failed, he cursed him to be alone and said that anyone who gets close to him would turn to stone. Martin says he heard that if Sauron dies, the curse will be broken. The king says he's always done good for people, so if his death can break the curse and turn everyone back into humans, he's ready to die. The king gets on his knees and Martin puts his axe to his neck, but Martin's heart tells him it's wrong. So he doesn't kill the king. He tells him that he's innocent and it would be a sin to kill him. He says there must be another way to break the curse. Suddenly, Jafar appears in a puff of black smoke and tells Martin, "You blind fool, I told you to kill him, but you messed up my plan by not killing him." Martin recognizes his voice and tells the king that he's King William's minister, Hojo. Sauron says Jafar and Hojo are the same person and that he's also been alive for 1,000 years. Martin says he's the one who pretended to be the goblin and told him to kill him. He says he had a feeling something was wrong. Jafar gets mad and uses his dark magic to throw Martin into the air and slam him on the ground. He also pushes the old king away with his dark magic, but Martin gets back up and tells Jafar he'll stop him no matter what. Jafar uses his dark magic to throw Martin in the air again. He starts squeezing him with his powers, and Martin is in pain. Jafar then throws him back on the ground and says he's going to kill him slowly. But the brave Martin gets up again, holding Eva's handkerchief. He starts walking in the direction of Jafar's voice. Jafar says it looks like he won't give up, and this time he'll kill him for real. King Sauron, who's lying on the ground, is watching all this. Before Jafar can attack Martin, Sauron quickly throws Martin's axe towards his feet. Martin quickly picks up the axe and hits Jafar hard in the chest. Jafar's body, which is full of dark magic, starts to fall apart. Martin takes his axe out of Jafar's chest, and Jafar turns into a mouse and tries to run away. But the cat that came with Martin sees him and eats the mouse. As soon as Jafar dies, his curse is broken. All the people who were turned into stone statues become human again, and the king's ruined palace is restored to its original state. When Princess Eva comes to Martin, Sauron tells her that the curse was broken because of Martin's courage and willpower. He says he wants Martin to make a wish, and his crown will grant any wish he asks for. Martin says he doesn't want anything, and that he only came to save the princess. The king says Martin is too proud to ask for anything himself, but he knows that he wants to see the world, so the king uses the power of his crown to give Martin his sight back. Martin is super happy that he can see again. Eva tells Sauron that she also has a wish for her father to be healthy again. Sauron touches his crown and says it will happen. As Martin and Eva get ready to go home, Sauron tells Martin that he's old and his kingdom needs a new king. He declares Martin and Eva king and queen because they're both brave and smart. Martin and Eva accept the responsibility given by King Sauron. They tell him they'll come back soon after they go see their families. Sauron says okay and uses his magic to transport them close to their home so they don't have to walk too far. Eva goes to Martin's house with him. A little while later, her father, King William, who is now all better, comes to see them. They tell him everything that happened. After that, Martin and Eva get married and become king and queen, taking over Sauron's kingdom. And that's how this fantasy adventure movie ends. If you like the story, be sure to like and share the video and subscribe to the channel.